At dawn, the Golden Temple shimmers over its reflection in the sacred pool. For centuries, this has been the spiritual center of the Sikh faith, a sanctuary dedicated to universal harmony and uninterrupted prayer. Then, the marble cracks under the weight of 60-ton battle tanks. Machine gun fire tears through the courtyard as infantry flood the complex. In June 1984, the holiest site in Sikhism became a tactical combat zone. The Indian Army deployed against its own citizens on the very ground where they sought peace. This clash was the inevitable result of a years-long buildup in Punjab, where political failure and rigid religious militancy finally reached a violent tipping point. Throughout the early 1980s, the state of Punjab was caught in a volatile political power struggle. Amidst this instability, a preacher named Jarnail Singh Bhindranawale gained immense influence. To his followers, he was a defender of the faith. To the state, he was an insurgent driving a violent separatist movement. By 1983, Bhindranwale had moved his headquarters directly into the Golden Temple complex. He and a growing corps of armed loyalists fortified the perimeter, stockpiling automatic weapons and turning a site of pilgrimage into a barricaded military stronghold. Violence spilled across Punjab daily. Local law enforcement lost control, and months of diplomatic negotiations from New Delhi stalled out. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi faced the prospect of the state slipping into total anarchy. With diplomacy failing, the government turned to the Indian Army to forcefully reclaim the sanctuary. On June 1, 1984, the army threw a tight cordon around the Golden Temple, cutting telephone lines and sealing every exit. But the timing was catastrophic. Thousands of pilgrims had already traveled to observe the June 3 martyrdom day of Guru Arjan Dev Ji. When the army locked down the perimeter, those civilian worshippers, men, women, and children, found themselves trapped inside an active combat zone. A targeted military maneuver to extract militants had immediately become a massive, heavily populated siege. The presence of civilians ensured a significant death toll before a single shot was fired. On the night of June 4th, the operation went hot. Probing fire from the army quickly escalated. Militants returned fire with heavy machine guns from fortified pillboxes, catching soldiers in a crossfire as they moved across the open marble courtyards. By the night of June 5th, the infantry was taking heavy losses. In response, commanders authorized a drastic escalation, driving battle tanks down the temple stairs to fire high-explosive shells directly into the fortified structures. When the guns finally went silent, Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale and his core fighters were dead. But alongside them lay hundreds, and by some unofficial accounts, thousands, of innocent worshippers who had been caught in the barrage. The Indian state neutralized the militant threat, but the overwhelming force used to do so shattered the very sanctuary they claimed to be liberating. The sun rose on a devastated complex. The Akal Takht, the absolute center of earthly authority for the Sikh religion, had taken direct tank fire. Its dome was blown open, and its historic facade was a blackened shell. For Sikhs around the world, the sight of the Akal Takht in ruins was a profound shock. They viewed the assault as a violent desecration of their faith and their identity. Tactically, the army succeeded, but the violence of the operation catalyzed a new wave of religious grievance that spilled far beyond the temple walls. The blowback reached the highest office in the country. On October 31, 1984, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was shot and killed. Her own trusted Sikh bodyguards carried out the assassination in direct retaliation for Bluestar. Within hours of her death, India's capital descended into chaos. Organized mobs poured into the streets, targeting Sikh neighborhoods in a wave of violence. Homes and businesses were torched as law and order collapsed. Thousands of Sikhs were killed in the streets of New Delhi and across India over the following days. A military order given to clear a temple had triggered a chain reaction of bloodshed that spread across the nation. The events of 1984 remain a permanent scar. They show the consequences when political maneuvering and religious extremism collide through military force. In the end, it is the innocent who pay the price.